Hi guys, it's Nirmal back again with a new video, and today's video is totally about ferns and how to care for your fern. We'll also look into 7 or 8 varieties of easy grow ferns that you can consider keeping in your collection. Friends, do consider watching the video completely to the end without skipping. We'll be discussing about different varieties of ferns as well as their care guide, so I don't want you to miss out any details, and it also helps out the channel if you watch the video completely. So friends, now we'll start looking at some of the different varieties that I'm going to introduce through this video. Also, we'll see what all care guide these particular varieties need as we go on. So guys, the first fern we are going to see is Asplenium, or a bird's nest fern. It's a must-have in any collection. It's such a huge plant. Whenever you get this plant, make sure you have the space to accommodate it. The plant, as you can see, assumes the shape of a bird's nest, and thus we call it bird's nest fern. It's an epiphytic species of fern which belongs to Aspleniaceae family and is endemic to parts of Asia, Australia, Polynesia, Hawaii, India, etc. Currently what you are seeing is a slight variation of leaf form, and they produce ruffled ends. Most of its species grow to a very large size, so make sure you have enough space. So friends, the next one on our list is Boston fern. Again, a crowd favorite. It is a must-have if you have ferns because very easy to care for and also very rewarding fern, very lush and vigorous fern. Boston ferns are commonly called as sword ferns as well. It's one of the most commonly grown houseplant all over the world. This is mainly due to the fact that they are very easy to grow and also can easily adapt to indoor conditions. The particular plant I am showing you right now is a variegated variety of Boston fern with yellow goldenish markings. Likewise, you can find different variations of Boston fern in the garden industry. So generally speaking, ferns require bright light but not direct sun. That is the easiest way to explain how much light a fern requires. So find a spot in your garden which is always bright throughout the day, and morning sun is also appreciated. So friends, in this video you can see some markings on the fern. This is due to an overexposure to sunlight. It easily burns a fern's leaf, so always keep them in bright light but not direct sunlight. So friends, as usual, I am reminding you guys to check out my channel and also subscribe to the channel. Press the bell notification button and also press the all option so that all my future updates will reach you. So the next fern we are going to see is a Microsorhum greenwave or Polypodium greenwave. It's known by both these names. It's a beautiful plant. It can reach up to such a height and it's awesome. This particular fern has a rhizomatous structure that runs along the surface of soil and sends out leaf. I had a severe pest problem on this particular fern, and that is the reason why most of the leaves are damaged, but now the plant is recovering and you can see the new leaves are very healthy. I also find them to be very slow growing in my experience. So our next plant is called a kangaroo fern, or scientifically it's called a Microsporum pustulatum. I love it because they have a very peculiar leaf form. Also the leaves are very glossy and shiny. They are epiphytic varieties that are commonly seen growing on trees like an orchid. Due to this reason, when you water these ferns, always wait for the medium to dry out before watering it again. So when you water your fern, make sure to know what kind of fern it is. If it is an epiphytic fern, they only need water when the medium dries out completely. But if you're growing a terrestrial fern which grows in soil, always keep the soil moist. So for watering your fern, you can use two methods. There is the tray method where you can place the pot in a tray and fill it up with water. So the water will slowly rise from the bottom to the top because of capillary action of the soil. So the second way is to top water your pot like any other garden plant and let the excess water drip off. Make sure the drainage holes are working and that excess water is draining away from the pot, or it can cause root rot. So the next fern we are going to see is a fishtail fern or a Nephrolepis falcata. It's a mouthful, but it's the best fern, I would say. It's so hardy, it's very fast growing and becomes a lush plant in a short amount of time. This particular variety of fern is what I strongly recommend because it's the most fast growing fern in my experience. It is very low maintenance and can also withstand a lot of variation in the climate. Even it can take some amount of full sun, just that it might lose this green color and turn a little bit pale yellow. So the tip of the leaf on this fern resembles the tail of a fish, and that's the reason why the common name fishtail fern. For a very healthy plant, always try to keep the medium very moist. So friends, I have an Instagram account which is a sister account to this channel, and you can check that out from the link given in the description below. You can also message me your queries there as well. So I hope you guys will check it out. So friends, this is a miniature tree fern, or it's otherwise called as Oceanopetris giba, the scientific name. It's something that grows like a tree. It has a bark-like structure. So that is the reason why it's called a miniature tree fern. This is one of my absolute favorite fern because of its unique structure. If they are grown in sufficiently big containers, they can even grow up to 2 meters high. Like most ferns, they also require a constantly moist medium with a lot of nitrogen content so that they can push out all this green growth. Humidity is a key factor in keeping your plants happy, ferns in particular. So for giving humidity, you can adopt different methods like pebble trays with water, growing them inside glass terrariums, or even misting your plants. So if your relative humidity is very low, you can consider spraying your plants twice or thrice a day. This will keep up some humidity levels. Otherwise, you can invest in a humidifier. So friends, the next fern we are going to see is a fluffy ruffle fern or a Nephrolepis exhalata. It's so soft to touch, it's like touching some kind of fur or something. That's why it's called fluffy ruffle fern. The texture on the leaf of this particular fern is so unique that you always have the temptation to go and pat it like your pet. Due to this reason, I would strongly recommend you to not get this fern wet when you water it. That can ruin the texture of the plant, also cause fungal attacks. Just like any garden plant, you need to fertilize your fern for a healthy plant. I would generally opt for organic options, but if that is not possible, you can also rely on chemical options, and we'll see how we can do that. So there are two different ways to feed your plants. Especially for ferns, I use foliar feeding, whether organic or chemical. I take a nitrogen rich chemical that is in proper dilution and spray it all over the leaves. This helps the plant directly absorb it into the system. Once in 3 months, you can mulch the soil with some compost or manure, which is finely powdered and distributed evenly on the surface of the soil. Don't forget to water your plants after you fertilize them so that the fertilizers are evenly distributed to the entire root ball. So friends, next is Adianthum or Maiden's Hair Fern. It's a very popular choice among gardeners, and it's not so easy to grow if your humidity level is not so high, but still you should give it a try because it's really worth it. There are so many different Adianthum species or Maidenhair Fern varieties that are circulating in the garden market. They are a little finicky when it comes to home gardening. They need a high humidity level all the time, and you should always make sure that the medium stays moist. Ferns generally require a lot of organic matter in their soil, so at the same time you should also keep in mind that the soil should drain very well. So let's take a look at how we can make such a medium for your fern. So in order to make this fern medium, I have taken 1 part sand, 1 part garden soil, another equal part of cocoa peat, and then a part of compost, vermicompost. This is powdered cow dung, which is sun dried, and finally a part of perlite. So now we have to completely mix this up into a fine mixture. So once you're done, you get a mixture that is highly nitrogen rich, drains very well, at the same time retains moisture for your fern. So friends, the next fern is called as a Polypodium punctatum grandiceps. It's also called Terrestrial elkhorn fern. So I'll show you the epiphytic elkhorn fern as well, so you'll know why they call it the elkhorn fern. So just like some previous varieties we saw, this one also has a rhizomatous structure that runs along the surface of topsoil and sends out these beautiful fronds. The leaves on this fern are very long lasting and very tough to the touch, prefer dappled shade conditions and cannot tolerate strong sun. So talking about pests and diseases, your ferns are relatively problem free, but there are some common issues that are found in cultivation. We'll discuss some of them and see what we can do to prevent them as well. Ferns are susceptible to white powdery mildews, mealybugs, scales, spider mites, etc. Most of these bugs usually attack the underside of the leaf, and it's recommended to check your fern leaves occasionally to find them in initial stages. Initially, if the infection is mild, I just spray them off using water, but if the infection gets worse, you can use pesticides like neem oil or even chemicals. So this is the epiphytic elkhorn fern. We just saw the terrestrial one. It's just because the leaves are similar in shape, but this is actually a platycerium or a staghorn fern, which is an epiphytic fern. Staghorn ferns or platyceriums have a slightly different care guide than our usual ferns. I'll be doing a different video regarding this subject, but nonetheless they are very beautiful plants and you should consider growing them. So general maintenance of a fern can include pruning of dead brown dying leaves, keeping the surrounding of the fern always hygienic, and also whenever required report your plant to higher sized pots as required. So by cleaning your plants on a constant basis, you can easily ensure that they stay disease and pest free. Also, don't forget to sterilize your tools before you use them on a plant, and thus again preventing disease from contracting. So last but not the least, guys, this is the fern I'm thinking of showing you guys, but I don't know the name of this fern. I would really appreciate it if any of you know the real name or the scientific name of this plant. Do let me know in the comments below. I really think it's a Microsorum or a Polypodium species, but I'm not at all sure about it. The leaves are very attractive and glossy. This one also has a rhizomatous structure that runs along the soil surface. Ferns generally propagate sexually by spore dispersal, but that is a very technical and difficult process, growing them from spores. So currently we'll discuss about vegetative propagation. So guys, what you're seeing is the underside surface of a maidenhair fern leaf, and all those brown and black spots on the margin of the leaf is the sac that contains the spores. Growing ferns from spore is a very tedious task, so let's take a look at how we can take vegetative cuttings from your plant. This rhizomatous structure you see is an example of what you can take a cutting of. Such structures with at least 2 or 3 growing nodes are sufficient cuttings to make a new plant. Ferns like Boston fern produce small offshoots or bulbs in the same pot that you plant them. So the mother plant has produced an offshoot, and you can remove it and plant it in a separate pot to get a new plant. Taking divisions from highly established clumps of fern is the most effective way to propagate your fern. So guys, if you can keep certain things that we just discussed about in mind, keeping a fern alive and thriving is not a big deal. I hope you guys found this informative and helpful. So friends, I hope you guys found today's video to be entertaining and informative at the same time. If you have any more further queries, you can comment down below or text me in Instagram. Until next time, stay blessed, and this is Nirmal signing off.